researchers have detected toxic substances in 81 pairs of headphones and earbuds from major brands, including Bose, Panasonic, Samsung, and Sennheiser. The substances have been linked to cancer, neurodevelopmental problems, and feminization in males? TechSpot, what are you on about? I promise I'll address that, but let's get some context first. Arnica and Tox-Free Life for All are non-profits based in Czechia and Hungary, respectively. They're funded mostly by state and EU grants, and are focused on environmental issues in the EU and abroad. In January 2026, the two organizations released a report titled The Sound of Contamination, a comprehensive analysis of endocrine disruptors and hazardous additives in headphones. The same one that was reported on by TechSpot. The report examined various models of headphones for sale in the European Union and tested them for harmful chemicals, namely chlorinated paraffins, phthalates, flame retardants, and bisphenols. Of these, we care about bisphenols, specifically bisphenol A, or BPA. To quote the study itself, mostly used in the manufacturing of polycarbonate plastics and epoxy resins, bisphenols are endocrine disruptors that mimic estrogen, potentially leading to metabolic disorders, reproductive issues, and increased cancer risk, even at trace concentrations. They also add that studies have confirmed that BPA can migrate from synthetic materials into artificial sweat, and dermal absorption is well established. Notice that they cited 4 studies here. This will be relevant later. The report is honestly quite competent. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it does have a very clear methodology and structure. The researchers took 180 samples of various types of headphones, including over-ear, in-ear, wired, and wireless. They disassembled them and tested the various parts for the aforementioned chemicals, dividing the results into green, yellow, or red, based on the risk factor, green being best and red being worst. Whilst every single headphone had some variety of bisphenol present, BPA being present in 177 of the 180 samples, nearly 70% of the samples were given a green rating in the end. This wasn't quite the case for other chemicals, which varied quite a bit. The point of the study is that even though we don't yet know the long-term effects of wearing headphones that contain hazardous chemicals, we shouldn't just wait around and do nothing about it. And even if certain headphones were rated green, and aren't a big risk for human use, these chemicals still make recycling these products a nightmare. I encourage you to read the study in full. It has much less technical jargon than the typical scientific study. Okay, context done. Let's get into the meat of it now. The thing is, TechSpot didn't really write the article they published. The Guardian did. If you look at TechSpot's article, the first sentence quotes The Guardian, and the rest is just summarized or poorly paraphrased. Sure, it's not a one-to-one copy of it, but it barely adds any content that's either not present in the Guardian article, or that's so surface level that it shouldn't even be included. And let's take a closer look at that Guardian article, shall we? It actually does a pretty good job summarizing the study, and presents the most important points competently and coherently. However, what in the world is this lead? Substances include chemicals that can cause cancer, neurodevelopmental problems, and the feminization of males. This is the exact same sentence that TechSpot decided to include in their TLDR. The headphone report doesn't mention this. Sure, they mentioned that BPA is an endocrine disruptor and can impact puberty, fertility, and hormonal development, but they never specifically mentioned the feminization of males. So what gives? The Guardian doesn't really cite their sources properly, which is disturbing in and of itself, but it's additionally problematic because it doesn't allow us to check where they're deriving their information from. They claim that BPA feminizes males, but we can only guess as to where that claim is coming from. And do they mean male humans? Which seems to be implied by the lack of context. Or do they perhaps mean rats? Well, in October 2025, researchers from the Uppsala University in Sweden published an article in Nature's Communications Medicine journal. It's titled, Developmental Low-Dose Bisphenol A Exposure Leads to Extensive Transcriptome Female Masculinization and Male Feminization Later in Life. Okay, that looks promising. Oh look, they're talking about rats. Yep, it's rats, not humans. The offspring of pregnant rats that were given drinking water laced with BPA showed notable signs of female masculinization and male feminization, such as larger mammary gland epithelial trees of males and masculinized neurobehaviors of females. But that's strange. This study is talking about both sexes and specifies that the subjects are rats. It does make certain connections with previous studies on humans, but nothing concrete. Even the New York Post, of all things, was able to properly summarize this article and provide citations, in the form of peer-reviewed studies, for other claims it makes in its reporting. And if you know the New York Post, this is an achievement. So why couldn't The Guardian do the same? I mean, it's not like the headphone report mentioned feminization or masculinization specifically. So why focus on the feminization of males? And why obfuscate the context that we're talking about rats? Was this some attempt to capitalize on the growing wave of hypermasculinity and transphobic narratives to get easy clicks? Maybe it was the author's personal bias. Or maybe it was just laziness. Whatever the case may be, they chose very specific details to include and to omit. And TechSpot copied their methodology. This kind of lazy journalism is worrisome and dangerous. Sure, it's easy to laugh about the ridiculous narrative of getting a free sex change because of your headphones, but there are people reading these articles who aren't very literate. People who will take that claim as gospel and live their lives never critically engaging with it. People who will think that chemicals in our products are being pushed by the woke gay agenda to feminize us. They exist, unfortunately, as evidenced by the same New York Post article. And we shouldn't be feeding into their delusions. Science skepticism has never been more prevalent, and TechSpot is contributing to it. Do better, TechSpot. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and maybe share some other examples of lazy tech journalism in the comments.